Before this video starts, I want to put a disclaimer that this is not meant to be a video to direct harassment nor hate to this YouTuber, because Cheddar has actually been one of my favorite YouTubers for a good while. And as much as I love his videos, I can't say the same about this one. Now, if you don't know who this guy is, Cheddar is a YouTuber who mostly makes content on the Roblox game called Doors. He covers update news for the game, he makes theories about the game, he does a whole lot of stuff about the game. However, he has recently made a video about the Roblox game called Dandy's World, which if you don't know what that is, then I'm very surprised. It's one of the most popular games on Roblox at the moment. But that's besides the point, because he recently made a video about the game, seemingly saying that the game stole from another game. And look, as much as I love his videos, there was a clear lack of research in this one. Now, let me just say this again. This is not meant to be a video to direct harassment nor hate. This is meant to be a criticism video for Cheddar so he can better do research before making videos like this.
Today, I'd like to explain the entire situation of this game being stolen to all of you guys.
This is already off to a bad start because he says situation as if this is some sort of drama. Like, dude, this isn't a situation, nor is this a drama.
Well as how it's not really a bad thing? Yeah, it's kind of weird, but the lessons taught from this whole ordeal can be applied to a wide range of similar situations. So, let's begin. Alright, so many of you are probably unfamiliar with Dandy's World. I wouldn't blame you if you don't know anything about this game other than its existence either, as it's not for everyone. However, I will give you a brief rundown so you at least understand what's going on in this video.
Skipping this section because he basically just explains what Dandy's World is and the gameplay of it, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. So let's get on to the next point.
Now, so far, I've played around 3 hours of it, so I think I've got a grasp at most of what's being offered here. That includes my belief that without a doubt, this game's core gameplay loop is entirely stolen.
I will give him credit where credit is due for actually playing the game instead of just hating on it. Anyways, back to the video.
Essentially, as soon as I started playing Dandy's World, I noticed how I was good at it. Unnaturally good for a first-time player. I was flying through every threat, whereas every other beginner around me was dying left and right. And that's a pretty odd circumstance to be in. It felt like nothing I've ever experienced before. This is not because Dandy's World is just ridiculously easy. To a new player, it can be pretty difficult to grasp. No, I found Dandy's World easy because I had played and mastered something just like it before. Another game which was created 3 whole years before Dandy's World. One that functioned nearly identical to Dandy's World in terms of the core gameplay. And one which I think Dandy's World stole from.
I want you to notice how he said he thinks Dandy's World stole from the game, which is the first sign of a lack of research, but we'll get to that later.
That is a little-known game called Minus Elevation. This game has 20 active players on a good day, far less than the 10,000s Dandy's World gets. Yet it'd be wrong to say that Dandy's World hasn't taken anything from this game. I want you to fully grasp what I mean by stolen here. Nearly every fundamental gameplay element from Dandy's World is so very obviously taken from Minus Elevation. I know this because Minus Elevation has a very unique gameplay style that not really any other Roblox game has, let alone any other video game, except its earlier versions and, of course, Dandy's World. The very concept of going down an elevator, stopping at each floor to do a task and avoid monsters, that's from Minus Elevation. This game invented that.
With all due respect, you can't just say Minus Elevation invented that playstyle when you haven't done research to see if there was any other games like that. This is sign 2 of a lack of research.
Buffs to enhance your playthrough in the elevator, that's also from Minus Elevation. Even something simple like collecting research on enemies from items on the ground, that's from Minus Elevation. I could go on, but this game and Dandy's World have so many glaringly obvious similarities, it'd be stupid to think Minus Elevation's gameplay elements weren't being used in Dandy's World regularly. Now, to my knowledge, Minus Elevation has nothing to do with Dandy's World. It isn't made by the same developers, and I'm also pretty sure Minus Elevation, or at least its earlier versions, invented this gameplay format of going down the elevator and stopping at each floor. If I'm wrong about that, please correct me in the comments, as I'm basing this entire video on that belief that this game is the first. However, in the likely case that those statements are true, it means Minus Elevation deserves credit for creating that gameplay format, just as a common courtesy more than anything, but Dandy's World has refused to do that. Now, I'll explain a little later why I think Dandy's World taking stuff from Minus Elevation isn't inherently bad, but what is downright awful is how it just neglects its very obvious source material, which I'm sorry, I just can't excuse.
While he does make good points about both games being fairly similar, that doesn't mean Dandy's World is just a blatant copy of Minus Elevation. I'd also like to bring up the fact that they've said before that the game is somewhat inspired by Minus Elevation. Rox, back then when he was a dev, I'm sure most of you know who that is, has said that the game was inspired by Minus Elevation before he was kicked off the team. And to my knowledge, Quell, the creator of Dandy's World, has no knowledge about Minus Elevation. I did my research and there's no information about her knowing about Minus Elevation.
This whole ordeal could be essentially solved if Dandy's World just credited Minus Elevation as its source, but since it doesn't, it's just blatant plagiarism. There's no way around that. Minus Elevation only gets a handful of players, so barely anyone knows about its existence, so I think you can see the frustration that comes from this game, which is a lot larger, just taking everything from it and repackaging it in a new way. It's just plagiarism without credit. Now, contrary to what I'm making it out to be, I don't entirely view Dandy's World as a stolen product. Yeah, I'm labeling it as plagiarized for not crediting its source material, which means it is plagiarized, but after playing through the game, I've realized it's got a lot of unique stuff to it which Minus Elevation doesn't.
This is the main issue I have, because he acknowledges that the game has unique aspects from Minus Elevation, yet the video, thumbnail, and title just makes it look so dramatic. And yes, I acknowledge that other YouTubers do this as well. They over-exaggerate thumbnails and video titles for clicks. But this cannot be interpreted as anything else other than clickbait. There's no other way around it.
Unique stuff in this game, so it isn't entirely just Minus Elevation, but with a new coat of paint. It's unique.
If you acknowledge that the game is unique, why have the video, thumbnail, and title make it seem like you're just painting it out to be a copy? Again, this is the main issue I have. He acknowledges that Dandy's World has unique aspects from Minus Elevation, but yet the video, thumbnail, and title just makes it seem otherwise.
I think a good way to put this whole situation is to compare it to Doors and Pressure. Doors is a game like Minus Elevation, where it essentially created a whole new gameplay style on its own, with some inspiration from other minor games. Pressure, although taking a lot of aspects from Doors, still has a bunch of unique content to make the game its own unique experience without it just being a copy of its source material. In this case, Minus Elevation is like Doors, and Dandy's World is like Pressure. It's more right to say that Dandy's World is inspired by Minus Elevation and not directly a copy of it. It takes heavy gameplay inspiration from Minus Elevation. Still, not crediting the game anywhere is a big no-no in my eyes, as that just makes Dandy's World plagiarized. If any Dandy's World dev is watching this, just drop an inspired by Minus Elevation line in the game's description or something like that. Please, it would go a long way, as let's face it, there is absolutely no way this game is 100% original. Given how closely it is related to Minus Elevation, it's just too big to not be a coincidence.
Genuine question, does he just not consider the fact that they could have maybe been part of the same genre? Based on my research, Minus Elevation and Dandy's World are not the same game genre, but did he not think about the fact that it could have maybe been the case? Like, just a question, genuine question.
Minus Elevation is one of my all-time favorite Roblox games, and I just don't like it being subject to an easily fixable issue like not being credited for something which obviously took inspiration from it. It may not seem like a big deal, but plagiarism is no joke, especially when barely anybody knows the source material due to its low player counts. As for Dandy's World, I think it's an alright game. Sure, it's not for everyone, and I understand that, but I just want to see it give proper respect to the game that laid its foundation. Anyways, that's all I got to say for this video. If you feel like anything I said here was wrong, tell me in the comments and I'll check it out. Like I said previously, although I'm pretty sure Minus Elevation invented this gameplay format, I'm not 100% sure, so if you got proof that's wrong, I'd love for you to let me know.
I would also like to state that yes, there were in fact games that did this before Minus Elevation. While it might not have been the exact same gameplay genre, it was in fact very similar. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Again, let me just say this again. This is not meant to be a video to direct hate nor harassment. This is meant to be a criticism video and encourage him to do more research next time. While again, I do really like Cheddar Balls, he's been one of my favorite creators, this video was just not it. Anyways, if you did enjoy this video, then leave a like and consider subscribing as it only takes one click and it helps out. Anyways, with that being said, I'm out. Bye.